wisdom. We are actually in the throes of living in a house that was not built to last. Now, it's okay. It's all going to be okay. Don't feel sorry for me. God's got it under control. This is a great opportunity for me to put into practice what I believe. I believe whenever we pass through trials with perseverance, and we do that with a great attitude and a God-first attitude, it's amazing what he can do with that. So I'm not as upset and afraid, but I couldn't resist sharing that because I'm like, oh, I'm living my sermon right now. This is great. But the reality is when I walked into that house, it was like I was wowed by the kitchen and the cabinets and the tile and the fireplace and all the things that make the house look beautiful on the outside. But underneath, the structure was not sound. And because the structure was not sound, because it wasn't built well, it wasn't built to last. And so now we're having to go in and we're having to make lots and lots of repairs, and it's all going to be good. But I thought, that is so much sometimes how our life is. So many times I think we love to decorate our lives with the fun stuff, the things that make it beautiful. We love to present the beautiful side of our lives to others and pretend like everything's okay, or just we look like we've got it all together on the outside, but inside the structure is not well done. And this is what I know about decorating, because if you've ever followed me on Pinterest, you know that the thing I do most is pin decorating ideas. I love to decorate. In another life, I would be an interior designer. I just know it. But in this life, I'm not, but I do pretend to be one in real life. But I'm not an interior designer, but I play one on Pinterest. So anyway, what I've noticed is that, the fun things to do are the decorating things, right? Like, we love to pick out the tile and the paint colors and to pick the new bedspread out and to hang the pictures on the wall and put on the finishing touches. That's where we love it. Like, we like the big reveal. But nobody actually has fun like laying the studs, hanging the sheetrock, leveling the concrete. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like if you ever watch an interior design show, what do? I DVR Candace Olsen and all these people, Genevieve. And when I get to the part where they're actually building the house, I really just fast forward to that part. All I really want to see is what it looked like before and what it looks like when you're done. I don't care about all that in-between stuff. But that's when they're like busting into a wall and pulling out water damage and realizing that the fireplace doesn't vent outside, it vents through the roof and the insulation is rotted. And that's where the real work takes place. And you can paint over it and plaster over it and fix it, but it doesn't matter what you do to the outside. If the structure is not sound, then eventually the outside's going to come crumbling down. And so my hope for this series is that we will take this time, this 2 weeks, to pay attention to the structure of our house, because what we do on the outside will only last as long as the inside is strong. Amen? Amen. So this book, you can turn to your little fill in the blanks now. How many of you love fill in the blanks? I know that women love to fill in some blanks, so we're gonna work with you on that. You'll see right there, it says foundation. Proverbs is a book of instructions and wise sayings written and compiled by King Solomon. Okay, why did King Solomon write the book of Proverbs? Who was he talking to? He wrote this book actually to pass on his wisdom and wise instructions, wise sayings to his sons and to princes and to future rulers. So I'll go back and I'll say that again. Proverbs is a book of instructions and wise sayings written and compiled by King Solomon. And he wrote it to pass on his hard-learned life lessons about love and leadership and ruling and faithfulness and justice and the things that he learned in life, not just him, but other wise men who were gathered around him, to pass it on to his sons and future leaders. And so it's a book not just about, being smart. It's actually a book about how to lead well. How to lead well. So throughout this series, you're going to notice that I take a little bit of a leadership slant sometimes in this series. And at the end of each lesson, there's a leadership nugget for those of you who, want to kind of enrich yourself in that way. But at the end of the day, the most important person that you can lead is yourself. Whether or not you see yourself as a leader of others, we all still have the responsibility to lead ourselves well. Because really and truly, if we're not leading ourselves, something else is leading us. Hopefully, it's the Spirit of God. Hopefully, the people that are leading you, if you choose not to lead yourself, then they're kind people who have your best interest at heart. But the truth is in life that sometimes the people who would love to lead us don't have our best interest at heart. And they're not thinking of our good. And they're not thinking of drawing you closer to God. And they're not thinking of encouraging you. So it's important as women that at the bare minimum, we lead ourselves well. But I'm sure that if you look around your life, You can name people that you lead. It might not be a positional title that you have, but there are people that you touch every single day who look to you to see what to do. They look to you for guidance. For some of you, that's going to be your toddler. For some of you, it's going to be a sister or brother. For some of you, it's going to be people that you might work with. Some of you lead ministry teams at church. Some of you, it's a husband that's maybe far from God or is going through a really difficult time right now that's looking to you to say, can you add some strength to my life? And even though, we know that husbands lead in the marriage and all that, I want to let you know you are a powerful influencer in your home. And don't underestimate that. You bring something, you have something to bring to the table in your marriage. You really do. If you're a married woman in here, you have something to bring to the table in your place of influence for building up your husband, for encouraging him, for making him feel like he can do whatever God has for him to do, to make him feel like he can walk through the trials in life. That is a position of influence, and in a different way, it's a position of leadership, because leadership boils down to influence. So Solomon is telling people, look, if you want to be a good leader, the point of this book is to help you be a great leader. And I thought, what do women want? Like, if you're leading yourself well, what do most women want out of life? What are we trying to lead ourselves to? It's good if you're leading yourself that you have an idea of what you're leading yourself to. We all want to lead ourselves to something. It's good to have a clear idea of where you're going, because if you don't have a clear idea of where you're going, then you might end up somewhere you never wanted to be, right? It's just kind of simple, but honestly, it's pretty profound because we don't tend to think like that, If I'm not leading myself, something is. I need to know what that is. If I don't take the responsibility for where I'm headed, then I might end up somewhere I didn't intend to go, which is how I drive all the time. I get he said the worst part of recovering from his heart surgery was that I had to drive him everywhere. He finally quit. He finally started calling Tarek Stewart and saying, would you please drive me? I can't ride with my wife anymore. I don't blame him. I'm a really bad driver. I am. I take responsibility. But it has excused me from having to teach my children how to drive, because we want to stop the generational curse right now. We don't want it to pass on to future generations, and that works for me too. I don't want to be in the car with a teenager learning how to drive. I'll be like, you put your hand on the ceiling and your foot on the floorboard, and you're like, this is somehow going to keep me from being killed in a car accident. I don't know how. Okay, so what do women want? What do women want? I think women want, when they look at their life, they want overall longevity. They want what they build to last. We want what we invest in to last and go the distance. We don't want it to labor over something and then see it evaporate or burn up. I think women want to love. They also want to be loved. Such a basic need. I think all human beings are like this. We want to love and be loved. I think women want solid, healthy, reciprocal relationships. I love that women are by nature very giving and nurturing, but the truth is we have to have relationships that also give to and nurture us. If we get one-sided in any way, if we're always taking, if we're always giving, we're going to end up in a place that's not healthy. I think women really desire those relationships, and too often we find it really difficult to get that level of friendship with other women, simply because we tend to compete with as much as we want those relationships, we tend to compete and tear down each other. Part of what I really hope for sisterhood is that we can create an environment where that factor is not present, and there can be unconditional acceptance. And so we actually, because our nature is to be negative and judgmental and protective of our own territory, we actually need to be really proactive in weeding those attitudes out of our hearts and out of our minds, right? I think women, another thing they want a measure of success and security. A measure of success and security, and that's not bad. I know we never want to become materialistic, and there's a lot said about, not Americans are so materialistic and we have so much, and that's really true. But at the end of the day, women want to have a measure of success, because if you don't have a measure of success, you can't contribute to the success of others. And we want security, and that's not a bad thing. We're meant to want that. We want significance. Women they want to be significant. They want their lives to make an impact in this world. They want what they're doing to matter, whether that's through home, whether that's through career, whether that's through church, whatever sphere that they influence. They want to be significant in that sphere, and that's not a bad thing. There's something that God put in us, this desire for significance. It's a God-given trait. It leads us to our purpose and our calling, so it's good to want significance. It's not selfish of you. Women want to unearth their potential and grow it. They want to unearth their potential. They want to grow in their potential. And I want to say that potential, I think that it's quite possible that you never quit unearthing potential in some area of your life until you cross the line of eternity. I think that we never know where our potential ends until the day it stops. So if your potential hasn't stopped, more scary to me than the thought of the work that it will take to grow in my potential in God is the thought that perhaps I've already reached my potential. Like, that's a full stop in life. I don't want that. I want to always, it's always a little challenging to keep growing. Yes, it's always a little challenging to keep stepping out in faith. But more scary than the stress of that thought is the thought that maybe I've actually come to my potential. And I don't know about you, I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe you are. And when I reach my potential in one area, then I shift over to another. God, what other talents have you given me? How can I invest these talents? How can I grow these talents? Because I don't ever want to get to the end of my potential. I want it to keep growing until I cross the line of eternity, because I want to come in with things to give you. I want to come in with things to sow into, that I've sown into your kingdom. And the last thing is, I think women just really want happiness and peace. We really just want happiness and peace. Like, I think we think of like, oh, God's not for your happiness, he's for your joy. Well, yeah, but if you're joyful, you're going to be happy. It's just, even if you're happy in your trials, let's don't get too smart for our own good. We want to be happy, okay? That's all right to want to be happy. And so what I've learned as I've traveled around the world and seen women from different cultures is, these desires are not American desires. They're human desires. They look different in different contexts, okay? For us, a measure of security and success might look like a house, or it might look like a really solid career. It might look like a family. For women in Zimbabwe, out in our campuses, way out in the rural areas, it might look like 3 goats and a hen. All right, but all women, they want their children to be healthy. They want their marriages to be strong. They want their friendships to be reciprocal. They want to have significance in their world. They want longevity in what they build. These are not American desires. These are human desires that women in particular have. And so what I want to see you do, and this is my goal for myself and hopefully for you, as if you choose to come on the journey with me, I want to see you build the kind of house that enables you to have that kind of life, that full, awesome life. Look at Proverbs chapter 2 verses, Proverbs 24 chapter, Proverbs chapter 24 verse 3 says this. I'm reading out of the Amplified Bible because I just really love this so much. It says, through skillful and godly wisdom, a house, and it goes on to characterize a house like this: a life, a home, a family is built. And by understanding, it is established and is on a sound and good foundation. When we talk about the house that wisdom built, literally in the Bible, when you see the word house many times, not every single time, but many times when it is used figuratively, it is meant to be not a literal physical structure, but it means a legacy, a family, a life. Wisdom has built her life. Wisdom has built her home. Wisdom has built her legacy. Wisdom has built her family. By wisdom, a house, a life, a home, a family is built. And so that's what I want us to do over the next few weeks. I want us to focus on getting the tools in place to build the life that we want. I'm going to zoom through our fill in the blanks because I've given you the foundation and the framework, and now we're going to go through the fill in the blanks. If you've got your paper, you can look at it. Okay, so there's 3 things when we look at Proverbs. I want to read today's text. Okay, it's Proverbs 1. Verses 1 through 7. I'm reading out of the New American Standard, and it's in your handbook if you're looking at it, in your notes there, in your book. And I'm just going to read through it, and then we're going to answer some questions. Okay, it says this: the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to discern the sayings of understanding, to receive instruction in wise behavior, righteousness, justice, and equity, to give prudence to the naive, to the youth, knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and increase in learning. A man of understanding will acquire wise counsel. To understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and fools despise wisdom and instruction.